Statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The U.S. hostilities against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, aggrandized under the pretext of its peaceful satellite launch, have finally reached the threshold of nuclear war. On March 25th, the U.S. strategic bomber B-52 stealthily flew into South Korea again for a sudden preemptive nuclear attack on the north and conducted a nuclear bomb-dropping drill. The United States has sent the strategic bomber a means of provoking a nuclear war again, despite our repeated warnings. It clearly shows that the U.S. plan of nuclear war has entered a stage of practice which can never be stopped. Considering that if we, who has a treasured sword of nukes, achieve economic prosperity through the building of a thriving nation, its hostile policy towards the DPRK would be over. The United States makes last-ditch efforts to find a way out in the provocation of a nuclear war on the north. The United States has already fabricated resolutions on sanctions at the UN Security Council 2 times in less than 2 months, while fostering a vicious circle of aggravated tension under the pretext of nuclear non-proliferation in a bid to make an international pretext of nuclear war on the DPRK. Now the United States is mobilizing its 3 nuclear striking means to the preparations for a nuclear war on the DPRK. In the U.S. mainland, strategic nuclear missiles aimed at us entrenched, and in the Pacific, submarines loaded with nuclear warheads are thronging in and around South Korea. Meanwhile, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense, who flew into South Korea to make final examination of the preparations for a nuclear war on the north, gave an order to light the fuse of nuclear war, openly saying the U.S. military attaches top priority to a second Korean war. According to it, the commander of the U.S. forces in South Korea and the South Korean military chief executive invented a circled plan to jointly cope with local provocation, whose keynote is to stage a total nuclear war with the mobilization of the U.S. forces in the U.S. mainland and the Pacific under the pretext of provocation of the South Korean army. Elated by the backing and instigation of their master, the South Korean puppets have talked about punishment of a so-called provocation, and not content with it, do not hesitate to hatch a nefarious plot to hurt the sacred monuments to immortality and worship for the leaders, a symbol of the dignity of our supreme leadership. The serious prevailing situation proves that the United States, that has moved its strategic center for world domination to the Asia-Pacific region, is bringing dark clouds of nuclear war with the DPRK as the first target of its attack. Now the nuclear war has become not symbolic but realistic on the Korean Peninsula. Now the United States bluffs depending on the numerical superiority of nukes, but will face the miserable lot of being burned to death in the flames kindled by itself. We have got very strong precision nuclear striking means and nuclear war methods of our style. If a fight between the DPRK and the United States starts, the South Korean puppets who are running amok under the nuclear umbrella of their master will clearly see what the by-blow of nuclear strike is like. To cope with the serious prevailing situation, the Supreme Command of the Korean People's Army made a final decision to demonstrate the resolute will of our armed people for countermeasures through practical military action, and gave an order that the striking forces of justice be put on combat duty number 1. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the DPRK has been authorized to openly inform the UN Security Council that a touch-and-go situation has been created on the Korean Peninsula, where a nuclear war may break out due to the nuclear war moves of the United States and the South Korean puppets. Our armed people, in a perfect unity with the Supreme Command, will end the last stage of a total anti-US war of defending the sovereignty of the country and the dignity of the nation by mobilizing the might of Sungun they have consolidated. Pyongyang, March 2602 or 2013.